You have been holding so much together for so long that even the simple act of breathing has started to feel heavy, and now the strength everyone sees on the outside is starting to feel unbearable inside. From the outside, you still look strong and capable of handling anything, but inside your weary soul, everything feels completely overloaded, and you are starting to wonder how much longer you can keep holding it all together. There is a massive and silent weight living deep within your spirit right now that no one else can fully see. And the constant effort of holding it all together is becoming a weight that you can no longer ignore. You keep standing tall and carrying the load for everyone else, even when a large part of you feels completely stuck and unable to move forward today. And every single day it takes more and more internal effort just to keep your entire life from falling apart in the silence of the shadows. Your mind keeps moving and planning every detail, even when your weary soul feels absolutely exhausted by the constant noise of the world today. It is not that you have stopped caring about the people in your life, but your internal light is growing dim from the constant strain of holding it all together. It is simply that carrying everything for everyone for so long has finally started to wear your spirit down to the very bone. You keep going because you feel like you have to, bound by the heavy chains of obligation and the expectations of everyone around you. The internal pressure you have been carrying for everyone else is finally becoming much harder for you to hide from the world around you today. Some days it feels like your very strength is sinking under the massive weight of everything you have been forced to keep holding alone. You still function and do exactly what is expected of you, but your daily life no longer feels light or free to your spirit. And now you are starting to wonder if the path of being strong has finally become too heavy and confusing for your own heart to carry. Because the more you carry for everyone else, the more tired and weary your heart becomes every single day. And somewhere deep inside your soul, a quiet truth is finally rising that admits, I am simply tired of being strong. You still show up every single day and do exactly what is expected of you, but the calm face you show the world hides a heart that is deeply tired and weary. You still do exactly what needs to be done with grace and composure, even while a massive amount of silent pressure remains tightly locked within your chest. You still carry the weight of your responsibilities and continue to help everyone around you, all while holding your own heavy and hidden stone against your heart. You still try to be okay for everyone else by wearing a smile that never quite reaches your eyes, hoping that no one notices the exhaustion hiding just beneath the surface. And because you keep showing up and doing the work, people simply assume you can keep doing more, never realizing that your capacity is reaching its limit. But being the strong one can become a very lonely path when no one around you takes the time to notice the immense cost your heart is paying to keep everything together. Sometimes people only see that you are dependable and strong for them, never realizing that you are carrying your own heavy burden without any support of your own today. They do not see how close you truly feel to breaking inside because you have become so good at hiding the fractures in your soul from the world. You continue to hold everything together with all of your remaining strength, simply because you do not want to see your world or the people you love fall apart. You force yourself to stay perfectly calm and quiet because you never want to feel like your own internal pain has become a heavy burden to the people who rely on your strength. You keep going and keep pushing through the daily exhaustion simply because the thought of stopping or letting go feels completely impossible in your current world. And little by little, the constant effort of maintaining the strong persona slowly drains every single drop of internal light and energy from your weary soul. You desperately want relief from this cycle of overfunctioning, but you have no idea how to reach the rest you need without letting everyone else down. Sometimes you are not even feeling emotional about your struggle anymore. You have simply reached a state of being completely and utterly tired. You are not fighting the world or searching for answers in the noise anymore, because you have finally reached the point where you are simply and completely tired. And that deep exhaustion can make you feel a heavy sense of guilt for needing rest, as if your human limits are somehow a failure of your character. You feel like you should be able to handle more weight than you currently are, even when your soul is already carrying twice as much as everyone else. You have carried this for so long that you have started to believe that simply needing help is a sign that you have somehow failed as a person. You might feel like you have failed because you can no longer carry the entire world on your own. But you must understand that this exhaustion is not a sign of failure. This heavy weariness is simply what happens when a human heart has been forced to be strong for far too long without any place to rest. You must understand that your heart did not become this tired for no reason, because every burden you carry has a deep and significant story of survival behind it. Usually, this level of exhaustion happens because being strong became the only way you knew how to survive the many seasons of pressure in your life. You learned the hard way to keep going through every disappointment, layering your pain deep within your heart before anyone else could ever see what you were feeling. You learned to keep moving and carrying the weight of your life even through the deepest hurts, gathering the broken pieces of your heart with a strength that no one else could see. You learned the holy and difficult art of hiding your pain before anyone could notice it, convinced that your vulnerability was a weakness you simply could not afford. Maybe you became the one everyone else relies on today, because you didn't think there was anyone else who could actually show up and carry the load for you. Maybe you felt like you had no other choice in the matter, so you began to lose your own shape and form just to fit into the rigid expectations of everyone else. So you adapted to the heavy silence and the isolation by becoming strong, learning to carry multiple burdens at once through the thick fog of your daily life. You didn't choose this path because it was easy or because you wanted the weight, but because you felt your own internal light being pulled far back behind layered barriers of survival. You thought that being strong was the only way you could stay safe, but now you are realizing that this strategy for survival has become the very thing that is making you feel so tired. And over time, the strength you relied on to protect yourself stopped feeling like courage and started feeling like a heavy chain wrapped around your spirit. What once felt like resilience has now started to feel like a constant and relentless pressure that follows you through every single step of your daily life. It feels like your weary soul never gets a moment to truly breathe or a chance to exist without the constant and inward tightening restriction of having to be strong. That is the honest reason why you feel so tired today. Not because you are weak, but because you were never intended to carry the entire weight of your world all alone. You were never meant to hold every piece of your life together by sheer force of will. And your exhaustion is an invitation to find a strength that doesn't depend on your own effort. I want you to stop calling yourself weak for feeling tired today, and instead start listening to the soft and steady gold light that is beginning to touch your soul. Stop calling yourself lazy for needing a season of rest, for your heart and your body were designed for quiet restoration after a long season of carrying weight. Stop telling yourself that asking for relief is a sign of failure, because admitting that you need help is actually the beginning of your true and holy restoration. Your current tiredness is not proof that you are not enough for this life. It is simply proof that you have reached the human limit of what you were ever meant to carry. This weariness is honest proof that you have been carrying far too much weight for far too long, without the support you were always meant to have. Jesus is speaking to you now, saying, "Come to me." You do not have to carry this massive burden alone anymore. This is the sacred shift your weary heart needs today. Not more pressure to perform, but the holy permission to finally stop pretending that you are fine. Jesus is not asking you to add more pressure or work harder today, but simply to turn your eyes away from the weight and look toward Him. You no longer have to live behind the mask of pretending that you have it all together, for His light is finally beginning to heal the hidden fractures of your soul. You have been given full permission to stop surviving on your own strength alone, for Jesus is standing very close to you in this moment to help you carry the load. Because strength is not the only holy thing in this world. There is an immense and beautiful holiness found in the moment you realize you can no longer do this by yourself. You are discovering that trust is holy too, and it begins the very second you choose to share your silence and your struggle with the one who loves you most. You are learning that surrender is holy too, and letting go of the weight you have held for so long is an act of deep faith that brings a lightness back into your soul. Jesus is reminding you today that you were never meant to carry what only He has the capacity to hold, and He is reaching out His hands to receive your burden right now. And hearing that eternal truth finally changes something deep inside of you, allowing you to breathe deeply for the first time in many years without any weight. Because now the burden has a new and holy meaning, and you can see that your exhaustion was not an ending, but the very path that led you back to His presence. Now you can see that your current state of exhaustion is not the final word on your life, but a beautiful invitation to experience the restoration that only He can provide. It is an invitation to stop doing this by yourself and to finally accept the quiet and constant companionship of the one who has been walking beside you all along. It is an invitation to finally stop fighting a battle you were never meant to win alone, and to start following the light that is clearing the way forward for you. It is an invitation to let yourself be held and sustained by the only strength that is actually strong enough to hold the entire weight of your world. So I am asking you to let go of the pressure to keep pretending you are okay, and finally allow your hands to open and release the burden you have carried. Let go of the false idea that strength means never breaking, and realize that true resilience is found in the moment you allow your heavy stone to rest. You can finally let go of the heavy shame of being exhausted, understanding that your silent tears are a holy prayer for the rest you truly need today. Because your hidden pain does not heal through denial. It only begins to clear and transform when the long emotional storm of your life finally starts to fade. Healing begins when the internal pressure is finally brought into the light of grace, and the overflowing waters of your soul are met with a divine and calming peace. And maybe that path toward true relief begins today by simply telling the truth to God, that you are tired and can no longer carry this alone. I am finally being honest with myself and with you as I speak the words I have hidden for so long. I am tired. I am kneeling before you now because I realize that I cannot keep carrying this heavy burden the same way I have been. I am reaching out to you in my exhaustion and speaking the only truth I have left. I need help. And Jesus is leaning closer to you with gentle compassion, showing you that admitting your need is not a sign of weakness, but a beautiful act of deep and honest trust. You are discovering that this honesty is the very thing that allows the tension in your soul to finally melt away into a state of quiet and holy softness. Jesus is reaching out his hands to receive your burden right now, telling you that he is not asking you to hide your heaviness from him. And when you finally stop clenching everything so tightly, you will feel the weight leaving your hands as his light begins to enter and transform your burden. For the first time in a very long time, your soul is starting to breathe deeply again as Jesus takes the full weight of the stone you have been carrying. You can feel the constant pressure beginning to loosen and the waves of your anxiety settling down into a deep and perfect stillness. The heavy ache in your heart is becoming less tight and demanding as you realize that you no longer have to carry the world on your own shoulders today. You are discovering that your life is not suddenly easy, but that your fractures are now glowing with a light that is stronger than any pain you have ever known. Because you are finally resting in the quiet and sheltering light of his presence, no longer having to be the one who makes sure everything turns out right. And that simple realization changes everything about how you see your world, opening your heart to a peace that surpasses all of your understanding. You're discovering that healing often begins with the simple and holy act of laying something down at the feet of the one who knows you best. Restoration is not coming all at once, but you can feel the calm pulse of light returning to the center of your soul as you finally let go of the struggle. You are sitting in the stillness beside him now, and you are starting to believe that you are truly safe and that you are finally home in his grace. Your hands are completely empty and no longer gripping the weight of the future, as you slowly learn the beautiful and holy art of just being held. Quietly and steadily, the light of his peace is spreading into all the empty spaces of your life, filling you with a strength that does not come from your own effort. And that is enough for true relief to finally begin in your soul today, as you stand together with Jesus and realize that the burden is no longer in your hands. And when the pressure finally lifts from your weary shoulders, you will find that something gentle and restorative begins to return to the center of your soul. This is not a loud or forced kind of strength that you have to maintain, but a quiet and steady assurance that you are safe in his presence. You are learning how to find a deeper rest than you have ever known before, as the roots of your faith grow even deeper into the soft and nourishing ground of his grace. You are discovering a completely different kind of strength today, the kind that doesn't come from forcing your way through, but from slowly opening when you finally feel safe. This is the holy kind of strength that grows in the quiet center of your soul simply because you have finally allowed yourself to be held by God. As you walk together on this clearing path, you finally start to learn what it actually feels like to live in a state of true and constant peace. You are finally discovering what true safety feels like. A quiet place where the constant ripples of worry finally settle into a perfect and holy stillness. You are learning what it feels like to finally stop bracing for the next wait and to simply exist in a state of unburdened and quiet peace. Jesus is gently reminding your heart today that you can rest in Him because this holy relief is a gift of grace you never have to earn. This holy invitation of rest is finally reaching somewhere deep inside of you, moving your soul toward the light you have needed for so long. Because you are finally beginning to understand that rest is not a sign of weakness after all, but a holy space where you can finally be held. You are starting to see that true rest is actually an act of trust, a deep and steady belief that you are supported by a strength far greater than your own. You are starting to realize that letting yourself be helped by God is not a sign of failure, but a beautiful and necessary part of your healing. And slowly, without you even noticing it, your soul finally starts to believe the truth that you are allowed to live in this state of peace. You are beginning to soften now, as the once hard ground of your life becomes a place where you can finally walk with ease and comfort. As you finally stop fighting to stay afloat, you discover a holy lightness that allows your weary soul to just breathe for the very first time. Strength is no longer a burden you have to force, but a quiet capacity to stand upright and simply receive the love that is being poured into you. You can finally stop proving how much you can endure, because His light has already filled every broken space you were once trying so hard to hide. You are finally learning how to just be, trade the exhausting need to survive on pressure for the quiet companionship of the one who loves you. And in this holy state of quiet healing, your very heart begins to change, finding a stability and a calm that you thought you had lost forever. You can finally see the path ahead of you clearing, because your spirit no longer lives only in the strain of having to survive. Your weary soul is finally learning how to settle deep into the quiet soil of rest, finding a strength that comes from being nourished rather than being used. Jesus is walking right beside you now, inviting you to simply walk with Him and let His infinite strength hold the pieces that yours simply cannot. And in this holy quiet, you will find a completely new kind of strength beginning to grow, one that lives in your peace instead of your pressure. You are finally moving forward into a life where your endurance no longer comes from constant pressure, but from the deep and holy well of God's peace. You have finally reached a place where everything feels different, because your weary heart has finally found the holy rest it has needed for so long. This new peace does not mean that there are no more burdens in your life, but it means they no longer have the power to break you. You can finally stand without strain because the massive burden you once carried now rests in a completely different place than before. You are finally at a place where you are no longer gripping everything so tightly out of fear, as you have learned that your hands were made for receiving, not just for holding. You are trusting more now, allowing your soul to be reflected in the quiet nearness of God as you move through each day with a new and holy ease. You are resting more because you have found a foundation that is deep and grounded, a steady balance that no longer depends on your own effort to stay upright. Every breath you take now is full of a quiet and holy courage, as you find yourself finally learning what it feels like to live while fearing less. Your weary heart is finally at peace, for it is no longer surviving only on the fumes of your own strength, but on the steady grace of God. In this quiet space, your soul is finally starting to remember what it is like to just be, as it finally begins learning peace again. You are finally learning the holy art of stillness, letting your thoughts drift like clouds as you rest in the certainty that you are safe. You are finally learning that letting yourself be held by God is not a failure of your character, but the very beginning of your true strength. This light within you is pure grace, a steady flame that no longer needs you to protect it, because it is now being held by Him. And this beautiful grace changes absolutely everything about how you carry your life, turning every heavy step into a shared and peaceful walk with Him. The frantic panic that used to drive your every move has finally been replaced by a gentle and refreshing wind of quiet and holy certainty. You are finally walking through your world without the weight of constant pressure, no longer dragging your past burdens behind you in the shadows. The light you carry now is not a fragile thing. It is a steady and holy trust that is infinitely stronger than the old heaviness that once tried to define you. Every step ahead of you now feels lighter and more natural, as you finally allow your spirit to walk the path that trust has cleared before you today. There is a holy and perfect softness to your life today, a state of balance where you are no longer fighting the current, but resting peacefully on its surface. Every piece of your weary soul is finally coming back together, as you realize that you are more whole in this rest than you ever were in your struggle. Your heart is finally at rest, for it has finally learned the most important truth of all. You never have to be strong alone again. If you are reaching the end of this journey and you still find yourself feeling tired of being strong, I want you to know that it is okay to admit it. Because feeling tired today does not mean that you are failing. It only means that you have finally reached the honest limit of what you were ever meant to carry alone. It may simply mean that you have carried a massive weight for too long, and your heart is finally asking for the grace to just be held. And you are finally beginning to realize that tired hearts need so much more than just another lecture on how to be strong. They need a calm and holy presence. What you truly need right now is not more effort or more endurance, but a holy space where you can finally stop doing and start receiving rest. You need the simple truth that you were never meant to be the source of your own strength, and that your life is meant to be a shared journey. Most of all, you need grace, the kind that reaches down into the deepest parts of your weariness and reminds you that you are loved exactly as you are today. And Jesus is speaking directly to your weary heart right now, telling you that you don't have to perform or be strong to be welcomed into His peace. Because your healing was never meant to begin with more effort. It was always meant to begin the very second you finally chose to stop trying. True relief begins in this very moment, when you finally let Jesus carry every weight you were never meant to hold alone.